Hey guys, welcome back to my wonderful little channel here. Probably take a pretty good guess at what we're going to do today. Going to tear down this long style air pack. This is just going to be a teardown video. I'm going to show you how it comes apart and see if I can adequately explain kind of how it functions, just to help you guys that may not understand. I got some tools gathered up here. As you can see, I've got a nice clean work surface that has a drainage lip. You always want to tear down things like this, injector pumps, compressors, things like this. If you're going to tear them down, you want to do it on something that's going to contain the liquid on your bench, okay? Unless you've got like a transmission building bench that has a fluid trap anyway. So this, as I mentioned, is the long style air pack, and this air pack has failed. There's generally two ways, or two or three ways they'll fail. They'll either stick and not function, which is what happened to this one. The piston is stuck approximately halfway down the bore here. So it keeps the brakes sort of applied, but also doesn't provide any kind of boost at all. And they'll also leak fluid into the air side and push air out the vent. So this is the first of the two. Sometimes they'll just stop working altogether. No boost, whatever. We've got ourselves a rebuild kit here. This came from our sponsors over there at bigmikesmotorpool.com. Information in the description below to contact them if you need. I think the cost on this kit is $89.95. So it's a complete kit, comes with a new piston seal and everything. So you can also get the whole replacement air can from him and the big main spring in here if you need it, if yours is too corroded. And a lot of times they are. You can't reuse these cans because they'll have a lot of corrosion in them. I've already cleaned this up. I used a whole can of brake parts cleaner just to get the majority of the nastiness off the outside. And you can see it's still pretty, still pretty bad. So, and you see this is actually the output to the, this is the output, I think, to the, is that the vent? Yeah, that's the vent, never mind. So this was failing there because this got fluid coming out of the vent too. It just wasn't able to push it up out on the truck yet. So and there is a little bit of water in there. So yep, time to rebuild it. Basically you're gonna need a 9/16 wrench or socket, a 3/4, I think a 13/16 to hold the back up on the 3/4. Let me make sure. So no, it's 7/8. Okay. Yeah. There's a mixture. Sometimes they're 13/16, sometimes they're 7/8. So the first thing you want to do with this, well, let me finish my thought. 3/4, 7/8 or 13/16, 9/16 wrench or socket, a 7/16 wrench, 7/16 socket and ratchet, and a nut driver, just, you know, to make things a little faster. It may also be handy to have a pick. We'll see. And if you've got a 9/16 socket, you want a ratchet for that as well. Also, an 1.5" wrench or a really big crescent wrench, because you're going to have to take this big 1.5" end cap off. This is your hydraulic cylinder on here. So you need to get that out. Also I keep a brass or a stainless bristle brush around just for cleaning up more delicate items. First thing you're going to want to do is take this air tube off. This is your main air tube that goes from your air switching valve assembly into the back of the air booster canister. So that is your 7/8 here, and your 3/4. Sometimes these are opaque. Yep. Well, it wasn't leaking air there, that's for sure. Oh, and just so you know, if you have an air leak on your truck you cannot find, a lot of times they'll leak right here. This is your main air input, okay? This is where all your air comes in from the truck. The big line comes down off the frame. These 4 little bolts will get loose and it'll leak out of this little gasket around here, leak air. And it doesn't always leak enough that you can hear it unless you get your head right up next to the skid plate and everything's quiet around you, then you'll hear it. So if you can get up in there and tighten these up, that will probably, I can almost guarantee you if you've got an air leak at all, you've got an air leak here. You may have others too, but you almost always have one right here. So, and then these fittings, these are always, look how loose that is. And that's not from mine doing. This is whoever in the military installed this brake switch retrofit kit. They didn't get that tight. So, lots of air leaks on the air pack associated fittings. Almost always. I don't think I've seen a truck that didn't have an air leak around these areas yet. So, oh, you turd. All this paint on this thing, yeah. I mean, that's, if you've worked on military vehicles before or at all, it's nothing new to you, but it is still annoying. And yeah, I mean, I could have like broken this stuff loose and, you know, made this a whole lot faster so you didn't have to sit here watching me doing this, but it's not the same that way, you know, you don't get the same out of it. A lot of times there's little things in the technique like that. You know, getting the wrench just started and then slapping it on to knock the paint off the fitting. Little things like that really help people that just don't know. You know, that's how you develop techniques, right? So, I like to show everything when possible. So we got that one. Let's see if this one's any easier. Nah. It's got just as much paint. There's another thing that may help you when you're breaking difficult fittings loose, is getting your wrenches like this, and just using your hand to push them or squeeze them together. Yep, you got a lot more leverage that way when the wrenches are close together but separated than you do if they're like this. You know, then you have to use both hands and it's just not as easy. So, little technique tips maybe you'll find helpful. This doesn't need to be on there right now. You really want to also be careful not to bend this line. I don't know if you can get this line a replacement. Maybe you can. I mean, you can make one if you got to, but also separate your parts out, because you're going to want to clean them up more after you've got everything disassembled as well. You're not just going to clean the outside off and then leave it like this, right? So let's see about getting the end cap off. We got our 9/16 socket on our long snap-on ratchet. Doesn't have to be a snap-on ratchet, but I found a lot of times with fasteners that have a lot of paint on it like that, you can see once you get the socket on, if you give it a real quick sharp slap, it'll help break that paint and shatter it instead of letting the paint get down into the threads and screwing up the threads. Because even dried and cured paint will be just the slightest bit elastic. So if you try to break the thing loose and take it off slowly, it can pull the paint down into the threads and end up galling the threads. But if you hit it fast, instead of the paint elasticity working in its favor, it just shatters. Kind of like glass. If you push on glass hard but slowly, it will deflect a bit, right? But if you hit it very suddenly, it'll shatter. Kind of the same concept, I suppose. Different material, obviously. And yeah, this is the air pack that I showed you to replace that plug in, the 1/8 inch plug. That's when I found out this air pack was bad for sure. And when I had that plug out and I stuck an Allen wrench in there and it went all the way down. It's like, oh, well, if the piston wasn't depressed, the Allen wrench would have gone in just a little bit and hit it. So that's how I found out it was stuck. And yes, I could do this with an impact, but I didn't feel like listening to my compressor today, to be honest. Just for a little bit of this. Alright. Let's see if this cap will come off. Yep, reasonably easily, yes. Sometimes they're stuck. Ooh. Yeah, that's no good. Wow. That's all water, guys, I think. No, that's fluid. That's brake fluid. But it is nasty. And that's what happens when you let these trucks sit. What a shame. Probably going to have to replace this can. And if the can is this rusty as it looks like it is, we'll find out when we get it more apart if it really is that bad. But it feels like it is, and it looks like it is. Yeah, it's pretty bad. If the can is that bad, that big spring on the other side probably is going to be too. So, man, that sucks. Yeah, this can is fucked. A lot of pitting down here. Looks like there's quite a bit of pitting on the up top side too. Let's see. You see that? How bad that is. Ugh. Terrible. A terrible occurrence. Bring this a little closer and show you. See that? Yeah. This can is toast. Not sure, yeah. It probably isn't going to go as well on the camera as in person, but that's some really deep pitting. So, I'm going to go ahead and continue to tear this down because it's got to come apart anyway, even if I do have to replace the can. So, shit. Not good news. Not at all. And see, there's still petroleum jelly in there from the assembly. So this thing was not used. It just sat and rusted up. Because this truck was a Saginaw rebuild. sucks, man. Let's see if any fluid will come out around the piston. Yeah, a little bit. Say 1, 2 drips, 3. Just a little bit of a drip. Ah, crap. Alright, I think that's a 5/8 and I didn't grab that. Oh, let's move on to this. So here. We got this bolt in here, 7/16. You can take this fitting out. That way you can get to this with a socket, but I don't find it necessary because these fittings like to crack and they're not the easiest to get a hold of, so I don't remove them unless I have to. Oh, let's get that back up, yeah. Be careful not to drop everything when you pull this apart. See, there's a piston in here. And you want to pay very close attention to how all of this comes apart, okay? There's some things you can put in backwards. If you put anything in backwards, it will not function when you put it back together. So pay attention to how it comes apart. Look at all that aluminum oxide. Man, oh man. Now obviously brake parts cleaner, it doesn't dissolve aluminum oxide, but it does blow the loose debris off. And whatever oils and fluid, look at that. That's pretty nasty. The spring has to come out. Dump some of that crap out on the shop floor here. Yeah, you don't have to be super careful with the spring because the rebuild kit has a replacement, but why break it if you don't have to? Because you never know when something just may not fit right and you have to reuse an old one. Doesn't happen often, but over years of doing this, you find out that you don't want to destroy things unnecessarily. So we'll get in there and see if we can scrub that oxidation out a little bit. Yeah. That needs a lot more work, but it's a start. We'll set this off to the side. We're not done tearing down that piece. We'll get back to it though. Okay, so over here, you've got another valve. And this is your fluid input right here, remember? That goes into a chamber here, which is where you can bleed air off. And then that is actuated here by this piston, which this piston is pushed by air, I guess. This is kind of like the relay. if you understand how a relay works. So what this is when hydraulic pressure is applied here from your master cylinder, it pushes this valve out, which pushes this valve in, which opens up the airflow here from the inlet here to this, which is the outlet that goes through this line here to the back of the can here, which fills this cylinder with air pressure, which pushes that big piston, which in turn through a rod pushes your piston in here, which gives you your boosted brake pressure. That's how that works. So, all right. Really should take this out too, just if anything to clean it up. I don't think I have that size. Damn it. Yeah, I knew I was gonna forget something. Where is it? Yeah, it is a 3/4. It's just got a lot of paint. It's better to use a socket sometimes, but if you do, it's got to be a ground socket. You see this this bevel on the wrench here? It's the same with a socket. Socket's going to have that bevel too, so you can get it on easier. But this fastener is so shallow, so short, that if you try to get on it with this, a lot of times you'll just round it off because of this bevel that's upstanding. I can't remember what you call that. There's a name for that offset, but it stands it up too far off the fastener, and you only get about half of the fastener on it. So usually you just use the open end, which also sucks because it hits everything. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a ground socket because it's just trying to round it off anyway. Okay. Damn it. That's also all nice and rusty, but we can clean all this up later. The biggest thing here is to make sure you don't have any loose debris in here. So let's see if we can get the big end off of here. And this vise is not properly affixed to this bench. It was not meant to be here as long as it has been, to be honest. I have intentions of building another bench over on the other side of the shop in the bay. This vise is kind of shitty, yeah, it's not. Yeah, trying to break the vise off the table. Well, let's try this another way. Can you guys see what I'm doing here? Yeah, okay. Let's see if we can act like a Boilermaker here. I don't know if that worked or not, but... Oh yeah, it worked. What is it Abe says? Channeling my inner Boilermaker. Yeah. Except I've never been a Boilermaker. But I know a couple. Alright. Make sure I didn't knock things about and get out of frame. Yeah, I'm still good. Spring loaded. So this is, as you can see, a double spring, a spring inside of a spring. It came with new springs, so you don't necessarily have to worry if these are rusted or broken. Sometimes you'll find one or both of them will be cracked somewhere. Make sure your spring guide is in good shape. Clean it up. You see there's a bit of focus. There's a bit of corrosion on there, but nothing nothing you can catch with your finger. Mainly just staining. Then you clean out your end cap. This end cap, by the way, I think is aluminum. It's very light. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, the center plug is steel, but the cap is aluminum. And it does, your rebuild kit does come with a new big copper sealing washer, so you can dispose of that. Now, inside here is a bit of debris and a piston. So, ew. Ugh. Okay, thankfully that nasty shit is coming out of here, the relay side, and not the actual piston side. So this is coming out from behind, yeah, I think from behind the vent side of the piston. There's going to be a lot of cleanup on this one before I can even try to do some reassembly. And I don't know. I haven't gotten the rest of it apart yet, but I may trash this one. And I've got a short style air pack on that parts truck. I may see if it's in better shape. So far this is pretty bad. Let me see if I can push this back down. Nope. Alright, I'm not going to push that hard on it with that. Something with a little more blunt end. Yep. That's what I want. What I wanted to do is get the piston up this way. Yeah, I think that's a 5/8, right? Yeah. That might be 11/16. Yeah, it's 11/16. Let's go over and get the socket, because I have a habit of like walking away to get stuff and leaving you guys hanging. So I'm gonna try to bring you with me more often. That way you can see what a mess my shop still is. I don't think I'm ever going to get this place cleaned up. At least not until I get some shelving. And yes, I do like gray pneumatic tools. They are pretty good sockets and stuff for the price. Yay. Alright, back in the holder you go. Alright, same thing here we did with the others, right? Oh, okay. You want to do it that way? We'll do it that way. Nice. That's nasty. Well, the spring looks like it's in good shape. So this is your entire air piston assembly. And it is disgusting. This is the packing, which is also included new in the rebuild kit from Big Mike's. And you've got to take this nut off to get the two halves apart and replace this packing. But that's also a good way to get it out, as you just saw. So I didn't think it was going to come out that easy. I thought I was going to have to get it out in pieces. Usually when they're that rusty you do. But awesome. So let's see just how bad that really is. We've got some cardboard boxes that are about to go out to the trash here, so we'll just clean it off over those. Okay, so as you can see here, what I was telling you earlier, that is petroleum jelly from the initial, see there's a bunch more, from the initial assembly. This thing was never used. It just sat and failed from sitting. This right here is a felt wipe. What this is meant to do is to hold oil. This is why you're supposed to oil this air pack annually. This holds oil and it oils the inside of the bore of the air cylinder every time it actuates. So if you don't oil it, well, you see what's going to happen. You also need to inspect, while you've got this apart, you need to inspect all, just like a piston. If you've ever done any kind of internal engine work, piston repair, replacement, rebuilding, you want to inspect your skirts here, because what this is a piston. You inspect it for striations and galling and other damage. You're also going to want to inspect your shaft here for any kind of damage at all, whether that be pitting or wear, cutting, lines, grooves in it, whatever. If you do find any, you'll have to do your best just to clean it up with some emery cloth, or if it's too bad, the unit's not rebuildable. Your spring, as I mentioned, a lot of times these springs, this coating will go bad, and you'll get some rust, and the spring will either just rust away entirely or it'll break, and then the piston will not return after you've depressed the brakes. So your brakes will stay partially applied. All right, now we've got more nasty stuff down in there. So let's see. Ew. Ugh. And that is the spring base guide that fell out of there. So it goes on the end of the spring just like that. You want to make sure you don't lose that or put it in backwards when you're putting it back together. Yeah, this thing's destroyed. That can is toast. Man, that sucks. I had hopes that I could get this torn down and videoed and cleaned up and rebuilt in a day, make a couple of videos. That is not going to happen. But at least I'm able to show you guys what's going on. So, after that we can, there's 4 bolts in there. Once again, I went all the way back over there. I didn't grab an extension. So, but you can see the spring guide for the end of the master cylinder here, or well, same master cylinder, but the boost piston fell out. It's not really held in there solid by anything except the springs. And once again, it just goes on the end of the spring to keep it centered in the bore. Let's see, we're coming up on We're 35 minutes now. I don't know if this recording is going to stop at 38 minutes and 49 seconds like sometimes it does. If it does, I guess we'll make a part 2. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll just stop it here and, so I gotta go grab an extension. Alright guys, we're back. I got my extension. Really didn't need a 12-inch extension, but why not? So it's a 9/16 down in there. There's 4 bolts. I don't know if you saw them earlier, if I really showed them to you well enough. So to show you what you're looking at down in here, you're looking at 4 9/16 bolts. You pull them out and this can's going to come off. So that's what we're going to do. Now you see that hole on the right side? When you go back together with this, you need to make sure that hole is in the right spot. Otherwise nothing's going to work. Does not want to move at all. It did that time. This is where the impact would be good. You know, I used to have a snap-on cordless 3/8 impact, but somebody else needed it more than I did. So, along with some other nice cordless tools I used to have. Shit. When you lose a $500, you know, cordless impact, it's kind of hard to go back and buy another one because the people that you suspected of stealing the first one are still working in the same place that you are. That was a long time ago, but sucks not being able to prove things. Now the can should come off reasonably easily, but in typical fashion it's going to make a clown out of me for saying something like that. So, well, we already know the can is bad, so no sense in trying to be gentle with it. Now the gasket between here and the small O-ring. You need to make sure you don't forget either of them, the gasket or the O-ring, okay? Your case here has a groove for the O-ring. What I do when I reassemble these is I will put a little bit of petroleum jelly in there and then put the O-ring on, and it'll keep the O-ring in there. Same thing with the gasket. You can stick the gasket to the can with petroleum jelly. So, we're done with this. We know this is not usable. I think I've shown you everything there is to show you about the can itself. So we're going to set this off to the side. And we're going to work with just this piece. This extension housing is where the seal is that keeps the air and the fluid side separated. So when you have an air pack failure where you're still getting brake boost and your brakes are still working, but it is pushing fluid out the vent under your hood on the passenger side, this seal right here in this little extension housing has failed. and it is allowing fluid to come out of the boost hydraulic cylinder into the air piston assembly. So you can pull this out, make sure it's still in frame. Yeah, pull this assembly out here carefully. You don't want to damage this is aluminum, you don't want to damage the shoulders here, and this is cast iron and it's got a sharp edge, so you will need a razor blade to clean this gasket off. I have one right here somewhere. I mean, literally, I know I have one right here because I made sure I had it before it's camouflaged. Same color. So you want to scrape this old gasket off. And, you know, ideally, you use a razor blade holder, one of the scrapers, but I've only got one, and every time I use it I misplace it. So far to date I have not cut myself doing it this way. Eventually I will, I'm sure. It's just a matter of time, but oh well. It wouldn't be the first time a man has cut themselves with a sharp object, right? Well, you get the idea. I probably had my damn head in the way and you couldn't see what I was doing anyway. I just realized that. Sorry, guys. So now you should be able to get the piston itself out, and we'll do that just the way we were doing before. We're going to use a blunt object to push it out gently. It doesn't take much force at all. So what you'll see here is you've got two cups, one here and one here. Okay? And they are not the same. At least I don't think they are. I've never really paid attention to that. Yeah, no, they're not. This one has the lip on the inside. This one does not. It has a hole. So it's basically just like another master cylinder. You've got your check valve in here that's spring loaded. You can feel it actually, and you need to make sure that works. Yeah, it's just like another master cylinder, except instead of your foot pushing it, it's an air pressure pushing it. When you put this back together, you want to make damn sure that both of your cups, the flared side, are facing the front of the master cylinder, that big threaded cap. Otherwise, it's not going to work at all. Let's see if we can clean this up real quick. So, to clean the debris out of this, you want to work it with your finger from the back side while you're squirting fluid into it, or cleaner into it, and then the same thing from this side. Flush it out. Just make sure there's no debris in there. On the outside, once again, just like any piston in an engine or any other master cylinder, you're looking for excess damage like this. If you can catch it with your finger, which I can't, you need to address it. This looks worse than it is just because the anodized coating is worn off. It's aluminum that rides in a damn cast iron cylinder. It's just like a brake wheel cylinder almost. So this I will take before I put this back together. If I put this back together, I'll take this over to my bench grinder with the polishing wheels on it, and I will polish all of this up and make it look nice again before it gets put back in. Not really a huge deal if you cannot feel it, but still not great either. you know. I'll set that off to the side. Our seal holder here. This is one of those things that it's not a moving part. It's not super critical, but you still want to make sure you don't damage it because it's only aluminum, like I said. And getting that seal out without damaging it is no fun. So. And I know it had failed because the damn air cylinder was full of fluid. All right. I gotta clean this up too and see what I can discern if there's any damage in here. Oh, with these lights, you probably want to make sure you don't get brake cleaner on the lenses. They're polycarbonate, and pretty sure brake cleaner will cause them to immediately fog. So, the bore looks pretty good. I don't see anything that concerns me. Just a little bit of pitting around where the seal retainer sits, but that's just dissimilar metal corrosion from the aluminum against the cast iron with moisture involved. In an ideal circumstance, there would be no moisture in here. There shouldn't be, but this truck's sat, as we've been over. And it got a lot of moisture in it just from the air. And not being used, not being oiled. So, yeah, this is fine. This housing is good. I don't see any damage in this bore to worry about. I really don't want to I didn't want to open this unless I'm sure that I'm going to be able to rebuild this thing. I need to find the packing for this. Yeah, this is one of those things where, like, you open the kit and you don't end up using it, and you put everything back in the kit. You know that if you ever do need it and you go back to use it, something's going to be missing. I think I'm gonna if I can speak. I think I'm gonna call it Big Mike and see if I can get him to send a can and just a can my way. I don't need a spring. Because, I mean, there's nothing else wrong with this air pack except the can has excessive corrosion. So, and that's something, if you're going to take on this job, that's probably something you are going to run into, is excess corrosion in the air can. Very common. And probably the biggest reason for air pack failures, honestly. Gaskets, springs, felt wipe. Gaskets, gaskets, gaskets. We still gotta go back and tear down the relay, so don't forget about that. Oh. Oh, you dead. Really? looks like that aluminum part, we got a whole new replacement. And this one's steel. Got the spring-loaded valve in there. That's nice. I wasn't expecting that. So, these are not the seals you were looking for. That's not either. I think this is the packing for this, yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. If you put this seal in backwards, it will immediately leak. You'll have to take everything apart again, and you'll have to peel this seal out, hopefully without damaging or destroying it, and you'll have to put it back in without damaging or destroying it, and that's almost impossible. So if you put this seal in backwards, you're probably going to need a whole nother kit. So pay attention. Pay attention how it comes out. And you got to peel it out without taking this this is a crimped in washer, right? So it's no fun to get it out. It's no fun to replace it. Especially no fun trying to get the new one in. But it is absolutely essential that you replace it when you do this, because I guarantee you, if you try to shortcut it and don't replace it because you didn't have a fluid leak, you had some other failure, as soon as you put the truck back in service, you're going to have a fluid leak. So just keep that in mind. And the way it's installed in here, I'm not sure if you can see it. See, yeah, kinda. Let's try. I gotta. You need to see this. All right, so you can kind of see the way it's installed is with the lips facing you, so facing the air can, okay? Which means the packing needs to be installed in the seal retainer this way. Now, do not get this packing and this packing confused. Look at the bore diameter. Very, very different. This packing is, this smaller one is for your relay assembly. So, see if we can get that out. See that? That's how it came out. You watch it happen. So, if you put it in this way, bad news. All right. I'm gonna put all this stuff back in the bag now. In the bags. I'm not gonna move forward with rebuilding this at all until I make certain that I can get that can from Big Mike in a timely manner. I know it's holidays right now, so he can only do so much. I mean, he ships things out same day or next day, depending on when you call in, but that doesn't mean he can get it here in 3 days during the holidays. It's just not going to happen. So this truck may have to sit around for a little while longer than I was hoping. I really don't want to, because I'm pretty sure that short style air pack is going to need to be rebuilt too. It's been sitting just as long, if not longer. And while they're not as susceptible to failure as the long styles, they still have some of the same failures. So let's go ahead and tear down this relay assembly so you can see what's in there. Go ahead and remove the gasket. It almost looks like there was two on there, but I know there's not. Let's just turn the metal black. Neat. Alright, you don't have to take this off. There's no reason to, unless you just want to. Whatever. So we'll pull our piston assembly out. This also has a packing, a rubber frame, a rubber packing, and a felt wipe to hold oil. Very important, once again, that you annually service these air packs and add oil to them. Air tool oil only, not WD-40, not penetrating oil, not Marvel Mystery Oil, air tool oil only. Thank you for your compliance. So 7/16. Yeah, see, these are, well, they're not all loose, but it only takes one to make this leak. And they're not tight. They're, I'm not even sure if I would call that snug. That one was. This is what did I, oh. This is why I have this. It's faster than running these things out by finger. Except when the socket doesn't want to stay on it, because there's a fitting right next to it. Yeah, that sucks. Oh well. So, as you probably could have guessed from the little pieces and parts that were in that rebuild kit bag, there's going to be some stuff under here. Okay. Hey. So there's where one gasket goes, obviously. And then, well, I say we're going to pull that out, but it sure doesn't act like it wants to come out. I don't know if that's going to come off. No. Fuck. You have to bear with me. It's been a long time since I've torn one of these down. I cannot remember. This plate comes, yeah, I think this second plate comes off. Damn. Well, I can tell you how we can fix that. I don't want to use too small of it, yeah, too small of it. Yep, that's what I thought. So, what I did there, I'm not sure if you could see it, hopefully you could. I stuck the punch in from the back side, pushed on this, and I pushed it till I took up the slack of the spring, and then I hit it and knocked it right out. So, doesn't look like there's any reason at all for me to go any farther into taking this apart. There's springs look good and all, but there are rubber packings in it that as long as I'm this far, I will go ahead and replace. So if this thing had been rebuilt in recent history, you know, not 10 or 15 years ago, I wouldn't take this apart any farther, but it hasn't. It's been probably 20 years. So and that's where this other, see, there's a rubber packing in that right there. What that is this part right here, this big brass piece. That's that. So it needs that rubber to seal against the case here. Yep. And this, like I said, is your brake light switch, and this goes out to your trailer service brake glad hand on the back. So when you get air pressure in here, when it opens to gallery here from the main air supply, it pressurizes this line as well, and you know, when this opens, and then you get your you get your pressure to your brake light circuit. So that's how it works. Let me see if I can get this apart relatively easily. I don't think it's going to come apart that easy. No. I need something to grab this with, and I don't have a second pair of pliers right here, I don't think. Do I have my, yes, I have my, you know what? I mean, this is hokey as shit, but it's going to work. No, it might not. The piston on the other side is still spinning. I can't get it tight enough with these pliers. Yep, I did now. I'm always like a couple of wrenches short or something of what I really need. There we go. So this replacement part is also in the kit, so is the new spring. And then we got this right here. So, and you can see that packing is, it's not worn, but it is deformed, and it's not super soft anymore, but that's reusable. I mean, there's no reason to replace that except that it's old, and there's no telling how much more life it has left in it, but it is still soft. Oh well, it's out now. It ain't going back in. Guys, that's about it. There's I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this out. I don't want to I really don't want to mess it up. I mean, I've already started to peel one corner of it off, just trying to break it loose. Let's see. Let's go back over to the toolbox. See if I can find a socket that fits it nice and snug. If I do have one, it's going to probably be one of my chrome shallow snap-on sockets. Man, I need to clean this. This is terrible. Nope. It needs to be a shallow. These are metric, but sometimes the metrics will fit with the paint. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Oh. So we're going to find out now if this will break loose or round off. I'll put you guys back in here because it's going to have to go in the vise. Yep, I got it. Yeah. That's nasty. Can you? Yeah. That's just gross. I mean, comparatively speaking to what the rest of the stuff that came out of it, it really ain't that bad, I guess, but. So we'll get this thing out. Yay. So there's where the other little packings go. See, the one faces each way. One faces out, one faces in. So yeah. And I believe they're different size. Larger diameter inner bore on this one, smaller on this one. This is your relay, or another piece of it. It's a whole relay circuit. So now you know where everything in these things go, right? And when you put this back together, the big end, small end, the big end faces in. Just like this, okay? Small end goes in, or towards the cap on the outside. This is gonna be probably a pain for most people to get back in. Camera angle. This is probably gonna be a pain for most people to get back in this bore without damaging the lip on these. So you cannot put it in from the outside. It has to be pushed in from the inside of the case here. So when you do it, make sure that you've got plenty of brake fluid on it. This is internal. This sees brake fluid. You don't want to put petroleum jelly on this one. You use .5 brake fluid as your lubricant. Lube up this bore, and you can see it is beveled here to help you install it without damaging the seal. But if you're not patient and easy, you know, work it in like so, just like that, kind of in a rocking motion, you will fold that lip over and damage it. So careful and be patient, and you will get it. Just pay attention to what you're doing. Watch this video. You know, if you got a tablet or something, or computer in your shop, or even your phone, whatever, and you're doing this, you know, watch this video while you're doing it. That way you can rewind and look at things. That's why I'm trying to show you all of this stuff as I go. So yeah, I hope you guys found this little two-part tear down easy. If I do rebuild this one, if I can get that can in the meantime, I'm pretty sure I will, but it's going to be a little while because of the holiday shipping and all. I will make a video of reinstalling all of this stuff, putting everything back together. So thank you for watching, guys. Be sure to check out our sponsors. Oh, so generous they are. Always listed in the description below the video here. I do appreciate all of your views and your likes and everything. Please subscribe if you have not already, and we will see you on the next one. Later. Stop. Hey guys, so working on this air pack some more, just doing some more cleanup of the individual pieces, and I took the piston itself apart, you know, where the big packing goes. See this over here? there's the big packing. What I wasn't expecting to find was even more damage, but I did. So I'm gonna have to order another part from Big Mike. I know he's got it. Just in case you're not aware, Big Mike is the only place where you can actually get all the individual parts for this air pack. There's nowhere else that I know of, or that he's aware of, that carries anything but the rebuild kits. However, he actually carries hard parts, individual parts, the air cans, the springs, and all the other stuff for these things. So yeah, let me show you what I have. This packing, you know, it sits on here like that, and this goes on top right there, right? Well, to hold the skirt of the packing out, there's a spring, and this is it. And the problem I found was when I took this off, there was a spot here, which you can see. This is the bottom of the piston. It was facing the ground in the air pack where that puddle of nastiness was inside, and it just rusted this spring away to nothing. There's pieces of it, and I mean, it's turned to crap. So I'm gonna have to get another spring like that, because without that, there's nothing to hold the skirt of this out against the cylinder wall and trap the air. So I know he's got this. I just got to call him up and get it coming. Unfortunately, it's like a couple of days before Christmas right now, and it's probably not going to be here till the first of the year. So that delays me on getting this air pack done. I mean, everything else is ready to go. I've got some other parts in for it that I'll show you later. So yeah, is what it is. So if you are going to do this, probably a good idea to just go ahead and order one of these springs and an air can and a rebuild kit, because almost any of these air packs you're going to rebuild is going to have pitting in the air can. So yep, just thought I'd show you that real quick. See you later, guys. I'm going to try to edit this into a part of another video so it's not just a stupid little 2-minute piece, but yeah, later.